Let's move on to Tristan Wirfs, the offensive lineman from Iowa, from the University of Iowa. Josh, this was your eval, a guy we ranked pretty high. Was, if I remember, was pretty raw, but was always a good athlete. So, what do you remember about Tristan?
We actually started him really low. He was a low 3-star on our first evaluation of him. Watching him on film, he was a light puncher. I mean, you look at an offensive tackle going to Iowa, you expect a mauler, and that was not what we saw on the Tristan Wirfs. And there were a lot of other people in the state who had a higher opinion of him than I did early on and kept saying, hey, this is a guy keep watching. Outstanding thrower in track and field. I believe he was state champion, multi-state champion. So an athletic kid, but he didn't really move up to where he finished until after his Army Bowl performance, All-American Bowl performance. He was a guy that, again, we talked about with Tua, you had to kind of watch and appreciate. I think that was the same way with Wirfs. What I saw initially of him was not really that impressive, and his initial rating reflected that. The more we watched him, the more we came to appreciate his skill set and his potential, really, because it was a potential thing with Tristan Wirfs, and he fulfilled that potential.
Gorney, do you remember him from that year at Army? I mean, that was if you go back and look at the rosters, I mean, he was battling Derek Brown and Chase Young and a few others.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't remember him all that much. Not a guy that I was like, wow, this is definitely someone that we need to move up in the rankings. So not much help with Tristan.
All right, so let's stay on offensive linemen. I kind of want to run through some of these guys relatively quickly. Andrew Thomas from Georgia. Chad, we can start with you on him. You and I can kind of go back and forth. We ranked him as a 4-star. He moved kind of up and down for us. Mainly, my concern was the old dog factor. I just wondered how much he really wanted it. But I remember him being a super athlete who kind of played both ways in high school. So what do you remember about him, Chad?
Yeah, I remember exactly feeling the same way, Woody. I mean, I think we had him in that 45 range is where he finished for me, where I was at in that time. And I kind of said the same. I mean, I took a lot of heat from people around him when I did kind of like my final eval, calling him more of a finesse offensive lineman, not near the dog that I saw in his teammate at that time, Jamari Sawyer. Didn't finish his block. Wasn't the most athletic, but fundamentally sound. But at the same time, I would defend him a little bit in that same article by saying he played both ways. He played for a private school, Pace Academy, that won a state championship. He played D-line, offensive line all the time for 4 quarters. So he was good. He was very smart, fundamentally sound. Didn't really blow me away in any phase of his game, but had a great frame. He worked hard, just a strong overall player. I think a lot of what we see now, I think he had a very good career at Georgia. Obviously, he'll be a first-round guy, but I think there's still questions and concerns about his athleticism, how he moves on his feet, his balance a little bit. But yeah, I didn't see that as you said, Woody, that dog, that toughness, that finishing attitude in Thomas.
He was a guy that was around a lot too, especially from early on in his career. We saw him as a freshman, I think, at the Rivals camp, but he was always at events, and I wonder if we might have just evaluated him a little bit too much. Do you think maybe we saw too much of him or knew too much of him?
I would say no. I mean, I still feel good about where he was ranked. I mean, to me, when I compare guys like my top O tackles, I mean, to me, he's not even close to a Laramie Tunsil type when I evaluated, O lineman, offensive tackle. So, I mean, Laramie was one of maybe my top O-line, O tackle I've ever covered, I would say, from an athletic standpoint to a projection standpoint. I didn't see that in Andrew Thomas. Now, will Andrew have a better career? Who knows in the NFL than Laramie? But I wouldn't say we over-evaluated, in my opinion. I still feel good about where he was ranked. Again, top 50 player in the country overall. That's a pretty high ranking.
Yeah, I think I finished him at 88. Mike, you never saw him, right?
Never saw him.
Regional.
No, I saw him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I think he was. Is this me with the echo?
No, we got it. So coming on Chad sometime.
All right. I think he's a victim of Jamari Sawyer. I think when they would show up to camps together, Sawyer would put everybody on the ground and finish every block and kill people. and Thomas was more of a finesse guy. And, I remember you specifically stating that you were worried about the dog factor in him and how aggressive he was. And, it was a surprise to me that he played as a true freshman, because I didn't think physically he was ready for that. So he's had a great career at Georgia, but he just wasn't a guy that struck you as a mean physical kid as an offensive lineman, and got more by on his footwork and things like that. But begrudgingly, he kept moving up the rankings. And I say begrudgingly because I know you weren't a big fan of his. And every time he would move up, you were like, oh, you need the dog factor. And we'll see how he pans out. I mean, he's really good at run blocking. Pass pro is a little bit of an issue now, and that could be an issue in the NFL.